welcome to comic creators. Here we have our esteemed panelists. Would you like to introduce themselves?
Esteemed. Hi, I'm Tony Fleecs.
Woo!
And I'm not. No, I'm Andy Price.
All right, to get this started, let's explain, what do you do for the comics?
Since issue number 1, I have been penciling, inking, painting. I do interiors and covers. I've also written an issue and have synopses in for more stories that I'll be writing. I've worked on the main book, Friendship is Magic, also the micro series, Fiendship is Magic, Friends Forever, and we just wrapped up the prequel book for the My Little Pony movie. So I have the script for the film right in here, so to the highest bidder. But yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, I'm similar. No, I started working on the comics very early on. I was drawing covers from issue 1, and I've drawn the main series and the micro series, and Friends Forever, and Equestria Girls, and what's happening? Equestria Girls, Guardians of Harmony, and I've done covers for all the books. Like well over 100 covers last year, so that's got to be more now. But yeah, lots and lots of comics. We've been drawing ponies for like 5 years now, right?
5 years.
Yeah.
Just hit my 5th anniversary in June.
Yeah.
Woo!
So, starting off, what is one thing that you learned in art school that you still use today?
How to make ramen. I did attend art school. I attended the Kubert School in Dover, New Jersey, which sounds all sleek and fancy now, the Kubert School. When I was there, it was the Joe Kubert School of Cartoon and Graphic Arts Incorporated, LLC, which is hard to get on one of those vinyl things on your back. But it's hard to pick out one thing. I carried so much from art school, and people ask us all the time, what inspires you, and everything inspires us. I think as an artist, our brain is kind of like a file cabinet. We'll see something and we just file it away for use later. At some point, Tony's going to have to do a story with a stage with these big speakers, and he's going to remember these speakers. Our brain just files everything away. But I think the one thing that really sticks out for me from art school was from color theory. If you have warm light, you have a blue shadow. If you have a cool light, you have a warm shadow. So,
Yeah, pretty good.
there's your useless trivia for today.
I learned the most, I think, about composition and enough about design. I learned way more about design after I got into the workforce, like when I became a professional artist. But composition, I learned a lot, and I learned how to stay up all night and work, which turned out to be the most important skill you could possibly learn as a comic book artist.
Yeah, I think how much coffee you can drink within a 24-hour period is an important thing as a freelance artist.
Yeah, and knowing when to stop, because you're going to overdo it and make yourself sleepy with coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, have you ever felt discouraged about your artwork?
Every time.
What day is it? People ask us all the time, how do you get past artist block? And with us, it's because if we don't, we're not going to get paid. So that's our incentive. Also, a deadline really helps. Get stressed out just
Yeah, we should be at work.
We should be at work. it does get discouraging, but the worst day of our job is better than the best day of any other job we've ever had.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't trade it.
Well, I worked at Suncoast Video in the mall, and
I worked at Suncoast Video in the mall.
so like when nobody would come in, that was a pretty good day too, because then you're basically just getting paid to watch TV.
Yep.
That might have been better. Yeah, I mean, it's discouraging. Like, as far as like not being happy with your artwork, I feel like everybody who's an artist feels that way all the time. And if you don't, like, congrats, you made it. But the best thing to, like, the best way to work through it is just always think about how you're going to get it on the next one. You know, like, this page is as good as it's going to be, and I could probably do that better, and I'll make sure and do it better on the next page, which you'll start, you know, immediately. I always try to start a page before I go to bed so that I don't have to wake up and face a blank page.
You know what? I think the day we are no longer discouraged, we may as well just stop. Because I don't think you're going to improve. When you see that discouragement, it encourages you to get better. So.
I mean, when I get to that day, I'll let you know, because wouldn't that just be great?
That'd be great.
So you already spoke on this, that this is a really common question, so here it comes again. Who or what inspires you as an artist?
Everything. I mean, when people ask, you know, what are my artistic inspirations for, you know, other artists that I look at, I wouldn't be doing any of this if it wasn't for comic books. So the comic book, you know, the artists of the comic book industry are really what drove me. So it was names very few of you probably know, like Jim Aparo and Don Newton and Garcia Lopez, Bernie Wrightson, and more modern day, I've gotten into more movie poster artists and illustrators like Frank McGinnis, and Drew Struzan, and Bob Peak. And if you don't know those names, just go look them up and you'll immediately know some of the posters. Star Wars, James Bond, just incredible works. So yeah, I take bits and pieces from everything.
And what's cool about working on ponies, especially, is that there is always an opportunity to take whatever it is you're into at the time and sort of channel that and do the pony version of it. So like both Andy and myself sort of get to do, you know, like, oh, this week I feel like doing, you know, like a Art Nouveau pony, or this week I feel like doing an action movie pony, or this week I feel like doing, you know, like a painterly, you know, something soft, or this week I want to do something exciting. Like, just by nature of the job always going on and on, there's always an opportunity to do some new, exciting thing. Also, our editor just lets us do whatever at this point, so that's pretty nice too.
I'm not sure if he trusts us or if he's given up on us.
Yeah. He's paying attention to Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to go to a Q&A. We have a mic right there, so if you want to form a line here, right in the center aisle.
We don't want no scrubs. Good choice.
No scrubs.
No scrubs.
And
All
while we're
right,
getting...
before anybody asks, because we're always asked, my favorite pony is Applejack.
Yeah. Me too.
So.
Me three.
And the rest of you are just wrong.
Yeah. Sorry.
And if there are any kids and the little ones, can you let them come first?
Yes, kids first.
So while we're getting that set up, in the same vein, who is your favorite character to draw?
I like to draw Spike a lot. The ponies, I like to draw the princesses because they're sort of, they look so beautiful and regal, you know, and that's fun to play with in their hair.
Yeah.
And Spike is just a little person, so it's fun to.
It's kind of nice to draw hands every once in a while, you know.
You know, to figure out how he's going to pick something up if he doesn't have magic.
We did an issue where it took place at a carnival, and Big Mac steps up to the baseball can toss. And he just stares at the baseball. So we show, the baseball rolling off his hoof, and he can't really throw it.
I'm working on one right now where it's a unicorn and he wears glasses sometimes. It's real silly. But the writer keeps writing that he adjusts his glasses. And I'm like, well, he could do it with his unicorn magic. But that's painful. That's not what he's looking for, right? Like, he wants to do this thing where the guy adjusts his glasses, but that's not a move that a pony could do. And if a unicorn does it, then it's pointless.
Right.
I've just been ignoring it.
It's there was I can't remember which episode it was. There was a throwaway gag that Jason Thiessen directed, and it is to date, I think, the thing that has made me laugh the hardest on the show. And Rainbow Dash goes to test the wind, and you do. So she goes, "Go!" That was it. I was on the floor.
Questions? What's this music?
My
Is
little
that somebody's
Tesla.
phone?
Tesla.
Are we all supposed to start running in slow motion now?
Did somebody bring a harmonium?
Well, now you got some nice background music too.
We're ready.
Oh, all right.
Sorry. How and why did you choose your job?
I never learned how to do any other things, so this is it for me. No, I always loved to draw, and I always loved comic books, and so I figured if I were to, if you were to pick a dream job and aim at it, that was going to be my dream job, and then luckily I got it, and so now I'm just trying to hold on to it.
Yep. I don't think I ever had any other choice. I've been drawing all my life. I briefly thought about becoming a police officer. I actually applied to the police academy. And when I went to turn in my paperwork, a guy I hadn't seen in years was working behind the counter as a cop. And he was one of the crookedest people I've ever known in my life. And I decided, if this guy's a cop, I don't want to be one. I retracted my application, and I was right. 15 years later, he was arrested on federal charges.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So, I think I did the right choice. I'm drawing pony.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, big fans. When you draw, for fun or for your job, are you imaginative, or something just pops in your head and you start drawing, or do you use references from other forms of media?
It's a little of both. I mean, there's the process of drawing like a cover or a page of pony comics. It starts with the imagination part. You read the script, or if you're writing it yourself, you've already come up with what the pictures are going to be, but you see what they want. We did this book, Friends Forever, that was always two ponies going on an adventure together. So my editor would be like, hey, we got a story coming up, it's Rainbow Dash and Twilight Sparkle, and somebody steals Rainbow Dash's wings. So then the imagination part is thinking oh, well, how do I describe that in one image? And so you think about that for a little while, and then you sit down and you start doing sketches, and then you can pull photo reference of, we've just got files and files, or I do, of, this is what the ponies look like, front, side, back. Bring that up and just sort of look at it. Also, you just memorize how to draw them at a certain point. But say the thing I want to draw is going to have owls in it. So then I'll look at what owls look like, and I'll look at what the My Little Pony owls look like, and sort of come up with, what I'm going to do on that piece. So I think the answer to the question you're looking for is all of those things.
Yes.
There's a creative part, there's a part where it's just sort of going through the motions, putting the work in, but you have to do all those things to get to the finished product.
We look at reference all the time. Like I said, that's where that brain file cabinet comes in, is we file things away. Not in ponies, but if you're drawing Batman or Spider-Man or any of those guys with hands, it's not uncommon for us to look at our own hand, when we're drawing it. When I'm doing those crazy expressions on Celestia and Luna and all of those characters, I'm making the face. So when I'm drawing, I'm like, by the end of the 26-hour drawing session, my face hurts. Some people will put a mirror in front of them or take photos of themselves, which is smarter, but I never claim to be smart. That's why I work in comic books. But yeah, don't be afraid to use reference. And I'm going to tell you something else that blows people away. Don't be afraid to trace something. I don't mean trace it and then go, look what I drew. No, you traced it. But I tell people to trace something because if they're trying to draw something and there's something not working, sometimes if you trace it, your brain connects the dots for you. You will see what's missing. And you'll pick up pieces from that. So don't be afraid to trace something. Don't be afraid to look at something upside down if it's not working for you. Look at it in the mirror.
Don't be afraid to erase. Don't be afraid to throw something away.
Yeah, don't be afraid to throw something away. I do it all the time.
Yeah, it's a lot of drawing. This thing with drawing, it's a lot of drawing.
It is a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
What's the hardest thing for you to draw and what's the easiest?
The hardest pony to draw and the easiest? Is that right?
Yeah.
What's your hardest pony?
The ones I don't know. The hardest of the ones that I do know, the hardest of the main six for me to draw is Pinkie Pie. And it's not that she's different or anything else like that. All the main six are the same body, so it's kind of cookie cutter. But for Pinkie Pie, you can't just draw Pinkie Pie. You have to draw Pinkie Pie. So I probably draw her 2 or 3 times anytime she shows up because I always want to push her a little bit. I think the easiest ponies for me to draw are the princesses because I really like the flow of the manes and the feathers and the horns and everything. They're very organic. So at least they're the most fun to draw. Maybe not the easiest, but they're the most fun.
Most difficult one for me is definitely Fluttershy. Her eyes vex me, always have vexed me. And it's always my answer to that question. And so you would think at this point I would have figured it out, but here we are. Easiest, probably Twilight Sparkle. I mean, that's a good pony, just very easy design.
Thank you.
Do you prefer drawing with like pencils and markers or drawing digitally?
Drawing in what? Marker?
Digital or traditional?
Traditional.
This guy.
Traditional.
Yeah, I think I also prefer drawing traditionally, but I do work a lot digitally now just because that's sort of how my workflow is. I used to do my pencils or my layouts on paper with pencil and then sort of modify them digitally before sending them in. And I felt I just sort of skipped that step now and I do them digitally and then I do like a finished pencil and ink on paper. I feel like I move faster traditionally, but I like being able to tweak stuff that I can do with digital. So I like both, but when push comes to shove, I'll go traditional.
If I can't get my hands dirty, I don't feel like I've made anything. So
I mean, they still send the check.
that's true. That is true.
I don't check my hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, so,
You can move the mic, little kid.
yeah, all right. So I was just waiting in line a few months ago, and I was trying to figure out how to draw Rarity. How did you guys manage to figure out the equation behind her hair? I mean, that thing just spins around.
It's like a telephone cord. So telephones used to have cords. They used to be inside your house.
Tell us another story, Grandpa.
Yeah, so if you ever drew a telephone cord, that is what Rarity's hair is like when you draw it. Like that's how I think of it, at least when I'm drawing it.
Get like a thin ribbon, and back in the 1800s when I was in high school, girls used to do candlestick perms, where they had their curls wrapped around like if there was a candlestick in the middle of it. That's what Rarity's hair is.
Like a Shirley Temple.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you were to like take a ribbon and wrap it around like a dowel or something like that, that's Rarity's hair. that's her tail. That's those curls. We've been drawing them so long now we don't even think about it. It's just automatic. When we actually stop to think how things work, it starts to fall apart on us. But use something like that for reference and you'll see exactly how her tail works.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to draw just the generic, like, key art rarity version of what her tail looks like. The hard part is, you know, when you get into motion, if she's whipping around a corner, if she gets surprised and it's up in the air, like, taking the tail that exists and adapting it to a new motion.
Yeah.
That's when you sort of have to think about it in 3 dimensions. That's
If you're
a very
doing like
specific
multiple
question.
images of her, like a page or something, don't overthink it too much. The reader kind of fills in the blanks that you leave.
Yeah.
But that's how it works.
Love you guys.
Love you.
I don't love, but I like it.
I love love.
Well, I checked the maybe box.
Yes, sir.
All right. How many hours do you spend per week drawing, whether that be for work or for fun?
You know, it's a lot of drawing. So, what's that, like 14? I'm not good at math. I have a job where I draw cartoons.
I'd say average hours a day. An easy day is 13 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's like 60 to 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why aren't we getting overtime?
This counts as overtime.
This is overtime.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Drawing for fun, that's a neat concept.
Yeah. My wife would kill me.
It's an interesting concept.
All right, first of all, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to my friend, Gypsy Magic.
Gypsy Maggot! Is that what you said?
Gypsy Magic.
Oh, magic, all right.
All right, my question is, what was your worst con experience?
Worst con experience?
How many kids are in this audience?
I mean,
Be as
I don't
easy
know.
as possible.
I guess it's good that you have to think
All
about
right.
it.
I think enough time has passed and hopefully this guy's not in the audience. So, myself and Katie Cook, she was our first writer on the comic book. She and I started with issue 1. Not long after the book started, we were at a undisclosed convention. And we're drawing and signing and just having a great time and really, really amazed at the response that the comic book is getting. And this gentleman comes up, tall, clean, good-looking guy, not at all like any of us. He actually seemed a little out of place. He seemed like one of those visitors you see at a convention that's trying
normie?
Yeah, like a mundane, a muggle.
A muggle.
Trying to check out what's going on. And he was talking with Katie about writing the book, how the process works. And he says, so do you have any connection with any of the workers, any of the writers on the show? And she's like, well, I know a couple of them and I know some of the directors, but that's really it. We kind of work independently of each other. Now, this was right after season 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Wings?
The Wings.
Yeah. All right, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time. And he said, well, I was wondering if there was any way that I could connect with one of the writers to ask them about, these new developments. She was like, what new developments? And he's like, well, now that Twilight Sparkle is a princess, she's out of my league. And he burst into tears. And this room full of people turned dead quiet. While this 6'5", 30-year-old man burst into tears because the fictional pastel pony in Cartoon Land was now out of his league, which implied that she was in his league to begin with. I don't know if that's my worst con experience, but that is one that really stands out to me.
I keep hoping to see him just stand up and walk out of here right now. Just a 6'5" handsome man stands up and walks out.
Oh, she's out of my league.
She's still out of my league. I don't have one. I'm sorry. They've all been so great.
All right, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello. If you could work on any comic book series, what would it be?
My Little Pony, Legends of Magic. I don't know. That's what I am working on. That's a little joke if you know exactly what I'm working on. Andy, you'd like to draw Batman.
I do like to draw Batman. However, I do have to say that the current atmosphere of DC Comics,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Marvel! Woo! F 'em.
Yeah. I learned to read on Batman comic books. I remember opening up a comic book and holding it up to my sister, wondering what the word incorrigible meant. Because Chief O'Hara was saying it to Commissioner Gordon, incorrigible. And so I learned to read on comic books. And I've read DC Comics ever since, until the new 52 when they revised all their characters. And they dropped me I dropped them like a hot rock. They're just far too adult.
You got kind of grimdark.
Yeah, way too grimdark. So I gotta admit, I'm really happy working with ponies.
Yeah. I always tell
very
people,
organic.
because people like have other books to do, like other properties, and I'm like, well, why would I not want to do the one that's wildly popular and that I know how to draw already, and I already have the job. So I've always said that I'm just delighted to do ponies, and if I could do any other thing, I would do my own stuff. You know, like I would either rather draw ponies or my own ponies. It wouldn't be ponies. Hopefully, be as profitable as ponies.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
What was one of the most difficult issues to work on, and why?
Well, the main series is always harder than like Friends Forever or any of the other series, because there's always at least 6 characters to deal with most of the time.
7.
Yeah, it's 7 now.
Starlight.
Then you throw in some princesses. Like I'll have a panel where you just draw on your page, and then you read the last panel, and it's like, then they all come in, and you're like, they all, and then I look back, and it's like, well, that means Sakura too, and both the princesses, and Spike. Ugh. So that's stuff's different. Probably the end of the Shadow Lock arc that we did recently. The last issue of that was pretty tough. Or the one where they turn into the ponies of Darkwater. The last issue of that. It's always the last issue. It's when you're tired and you just want to be done. Yeah, I don't have a specific. This one was horrible. Andy, I think you had a lot of trouble with the Reflections, right? They kept making you go into
Yeah, Reflections had a lot of changes. First off, this is Hasbro's sandbox. We just get to play in it. So everything that we do, they have to approve at every stage. I mean, from concept to script to pencils to inks, etc., etc. The problem is, we like to sleep at some point. So we have our own schedules, and we're steamrolling on these books, and we'll be done with like stage A and working on stage B. Hasbro comes in and says, oh hey, that concept for stage A, change that whole thing. So like when we were doing the Reflections, which is the storyline where you see the alternate universe where they're all evil or depressed or whatever, and Equestria is ruled by evil Celestia and evil Luna, and it's good King Sombra is their enemy or adversary. That actually was not the original storyline. That was kind of a sideline part to the original storyline, which was going to be multiple alternate universes. And Katie was like on script number 3 when Hasbro said, no, you can't do this. You can only have one, and be glad we're giving you one. So that was, some major changes that we went through on that book.
Good.
We still get to sit in our basements in our underwear and draw cartoons. So.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I like that. I heard a fan over there. You see me after the panel.
When you first started working on My Little Pony, did you envision yourself still working on it 5 years later?
No, we didn't envision the comic would go longer than 6 issues. Like, who knew? I thought it would be like a job I'd have, and then I'd have to scramble to find another job, a couple months later.
I mean, it's 5 years later, and we're still amazed.
Yeah.
Every single day. This train is running downhill and shows no sign of stopping. It just keeps gaining speed. I mean, we have a movie coming out, and season 8 has been announced, and there has now been
More Equestria Girls.
2, 3. I can't even count how many different comic versions.
Yeah, a bunch of different comic series with more to come.
So I'm still amazed every single day that I'm sitting in my basement in my underwear drawing cartoon ponies. I am amazed.
Yeah.
And
I'm working on Legends of Magic right now, and it was going to be 4 issues, and then I found out a month ago that they're like, well, we're going to make it 6 because it's selling pretty good, so we're going to just keep doing more. So I'm doing 6, and then who knows what'll happen after that. But I'm sure it'll involve ponies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The pony cookbook. Pony.
Do it.
Okay, this is both for Andy Price and you two, Tony.
Okay.
Imagine this situation. Imagine if Queen Chrysalis used dark magic to suck you into one of the comics to make a comic for her, not only beating the main 6, but while also invading Equestria. How long could you two hold out before the main 6 are able to rescue you?
So we're captured by Queen Chrysalis.
By dark magic, you're sucked into the comics.
We're in the comics, but in the comics forced to make a comic.
Forced to make.
Are we inside those gooey eggs?
Yeah, to make a comic of her, not only defeating the main 6, but also invading Equestria. How long could you two hold out before the main 6 were able to rescue?
Luckily for me, Andy said that nobody else is allowed to do Queen Chrysalis comics, so I would just get to chill. I think I would just hang back with some chill. Get some cider.
The truly cruel part of this is we are sucked into a cartoon world and we are stuck with the same job.
Yeah. I could fly in that world instead I just draw comics for 16 hours a day.
Now I can't even hold a pencil.
So you would at least try to delay it, right? So the main 6 can get their fights and rescue you.
Yes.
For the record.
Yeah.
We could hold that. I mean, our endurance is very, very strong.
Plus, the worst part of it is, until the main 6 find a way to get you back into this world, that delays the whole comic series for the rest of us.
Exactly. Yeah, and believe me, people would still complain.
Basically, yeah, Headman would still take a bat to your head. You gotta get this done within this time.
Don't tell me about Queen Chrysalis. Just get it out.
Thank you.
You bet.
What was your favorite cover to work on, and what was your favorite story arc to work on?
Favorite cover to work on?
Yes. And favorite story arc.
Favorite cover? You know what? This sounds like a lame answer, but every one of them is my favorite while I'm working on it. Because I try to challenge myself each time. I did one recently, which will be the cover for the My Little Pony movie prequel number 4, which is a parody of Bob Peak's painting for Star Trek The Motion Picture.
Oh yeah, that's a real good one.
And I was like, I'm painting this, and I don't get to paint very often, so I went into my garage and I found my compressor and I found my airbrush paints and I went and bought new paints, and I actually made a painting and I turned it in, and IDW went, we're afraid of Bob Peak's son because he beat up on one of our other artists for doing a tribute of this piece. Could you change all the colors? And I said, no. for it is a painting. But that one I really, really enjoyed doing. And if you come by my table in the dealer's room, you can see it.
That's awesome.
The painting is there?
I don't have the original painting. I have prints of it. I left the original painting.
Did you hear from Bob Peak's son?
Not a word. Not a word.
We'll see. My favorite cover, I really like doing these sort of widescreen ones. I just did the covers for the movie prequel comic, and it was like a long 4 connected cover one. Andy did a bunch of connected covers for the first issue, and I thought those were so cool. So I did a villains spread that was Hot Topic covers for a little while, and it was like King Sombra and Queen Chrysalis and Discord, a bunch of jerks. And I like sort of working in that widescreen format. And then right now the Legends of Magic covers that I'm doing are all in sort of like an Art Nouveau Alphonse Mucha style. And those are super fun to do because you get to draw all sorts of flowers, little noodly filigree.
There's a good pony name for you.
Filigree? Noodly filigree?
Noodly filigree.
That's my OC. And favorite story arc? I like the Ponies of Darkwater. That was fun to do. Like I like doing supervillain versions of the ponies. I liked Rarity with her Dr. Doom mask a lot.
I think favorite story arc, I think my favorite is still Reflections. I think it probably always will be. Because it was, we really got to push the envelope with that story and do a lot of different ideas. Although, the story that I wrote for the last issue of Friends Forever with Princess and Princess and Celestia, I need some coffee, with Celestia and Luna bickering at each other the whole time, I just enjoyed so much, because if any of you have siblings, you know it's never a smooth road. And I wanted to show that.
Did you find writing for yourself was easier than when other people write for you too? Like, were you more comfortable drawing your own script?
I was. I think I actually went overboard with my script.
With the dialogue?
With the dialogue, for one, for sure, and I really had to trim back. Because I was like, all these writers that I cursed for putting like 19 word balloons on a page, and I was putting 19 word balloons on a page, and I was like, okay.
I get it.
I get it. But I also was very descriptive, and I was like, I know what I'm going to draw. I don't have to tell myself, you're going to draw Celestia facing left. Well, I know I'm going to draw Celestia, But I think next time I do it, it'll be a little smoother process.
Yeah, I like drawing my own script a lot better than, like, a lot of people we work that write for the ponies are also cartoonists. So like they know how to write for an artist, but even then, there's something about drawing your own script.
Yeah.
It's just like so intuitive. Like you know exactly what you can fit on a page.
I will. There was a particular writer I'm not going to name, but he is not an artist, and he forgets characters that he has written on previous pages. So if Spike is on page 3, by the time I get to page 6, I'm wondering, is Spike still here? He hasn't been mentioned, and little things like that. That does get on my nerves.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What are all these little cheat cards you guys have? Who's writing your questions?
Did everybody write them down? Well.
Oh, did you have to write your questions down? Or?
Well, I already had one. It's like if she gets surprised, is going to be better than anything that if you sat down and said like, all right, well now let's draw the form of Rainbow Dash being surprised. And you formally draw the whole thing out, the shapes. Like the better idea is going to be the one where you're just like, oh, she gets surprised? Okay, and then, so thumbnailing, 100%. I have a little stamp, and it's shaped like a comic book page, and I print out my script and I go, and then I go through on the side of my script and I just sketch real quick thumbnails of all the pages.
Stamp, that's cheating.
Yeah, it is cheating. Well, then I go into the computer, which is all cheating.
I do the same thing. I draw all my thumbnails on the script. All my script pages are covered in tiny little drawings all over the place. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, so I really liked the Reflections covers that were in the comics, and my question actually, I think you already answered it, was what was your favorite one to draw out of the entire Reflections comic?
My favorite cover to draw of the Reflections? Yeah. That's easy. It's the Celestia versus Celestia fight. which I still have, and I've kind of priced on a range of people because I want to keep it. You know, if somebody's willing to pay that price, I guess I'll wave bye-bye to it, but I really kind of want to keep it. And I've only ever kept one other piece of pony art for myself. So that says something. That was my favorite one.
Okay, and for both of you, how do you figure out pony designs, like in your specific art style that you have? Do you just like sketch it out? Or...
Wait, say it again?
So like when you figure out like with your art style, what kind of like, how the pony design would work, like for like Celeste and Luna, like how their hair works, do you just sketch it out or something?
You're asking like how we came to how we draw ponies?
Yeah, like how did you figure out your style with ponies?
Well, mine sort of developed sort of organically, but like also the opposite of organically, where at first I was just really leaning into like drawing in the show style, and then I got more comfortable and I realized that like it would be better if I just drew like me, but also what these ponies look like. So it was sort of like pushing really hard in one direction and then going like, oh, calm down, and sort of bouncing into a real comfortable place. And I feel like my ponies look a lot better. I mean, at first they looked real rough. And about 3 or 4 issues in, I started to sort of find my sea legs and get better with them. And so since then, it's been about me just sort of like doing a version of my own style, but just as small ponies.
What people know me for is the expressions, and I always try to push the envelope on them. I think doing the comic book, we're at a disadvantage that we don't have the actress's voice to express the dialogue, so I try to push the expression through the image. I think that is actually, you know, our disadvantage is we don't have the voice, but we have the advantage to utilize the art. So I really, really try to push the expression. I love doing any of Chrysalis's expressions. I push her, you know, completely to a horrific monster in one panel, and then the next panel she's admiring herself with her hair up, looking at a reflection. You know, and that's just a lot of fun to do. You can't do that with Batman.
I got Amy's answering machine, so I'm sorry about that. We're not going to get an answer on that. My favorite expression to draw is this one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Hello.
Hi. First, I want to say I actually already have an OC named Philly Green, so...
Oh, all right. Well, I'm out.
Okay.
Noodly Philly Green.
The question is, you mentioned you do thumbnails, but have you ever sketched out like a full scene, just a real rough sketch, just to see how everything's laid out, and then when you go to draw it, it just doesn't look as good as the rough sketch?
Every other time.
And so how do you learn from that?
I mean, this is where the computer comes in, is I will just scan that sketch and then pop it right onto my pencils, and then we're good. Or you can lightbox it. I mean, but yes, I understand. I definitely get it. It's like your brain's not the same as it was 10 minutes ago when you drew that thing and you can't get it right again. I definitely understand that.
Sometimes there's something in a 2x3 thumbnail. There's like one line or something that you can never capture again that captures everything you wanted in that thumbnail.
Yeah.
You know, everything you wanted of that image is right there in that one line. And you'll never get it again. And, you know, Hitler was a frustrated cartoonist. So, this is how it starts.
There it is, Hitler. Next.
Thank you. We've got 5 minutes left, so let's pick it up and get through these last ones.
Let's make this quick. I was gonna ask, as a young comic script writer, is there any information about the industry you give me as a whole? And a quick second question, what realistically was your expression when finding out you're making a My Little Pony comic?
It was like this. Advice for an aspiring comic strip artist?
Yeah, I got my laptop right here. I have like...
Well, bring it by the table. I'd like to see what you're doing. I can give you a better idea of what you should do if I sort of see what your stuff's like, but my advice for every aspiring professional commercial artist is just draw all the time. If you don't have a project that you're getting paid to do, make yourself a project so that you're always in the practice of just drawing every day, all day long, so you're used to it.
Draw everything. I mean, if you like to draw ponies, that's great, but that's our job.
Yeah. Knock it off.
Yeah. But, you know, the ponies have to use a fireplace, the ponies live in a house, the ponies have to walk down staircases, so you have to be able to draw all of that. And if you tell your editor, you know, oh, this story has rarity in a Ferrari 308 GTS, I don't know how to draw a Ferrari 308 GTS, well then you're not the person for the job.
Yeah.
This person can draw a car, we'll get them.
Okay.
So draw everything, everything, everything.
All right, then thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. So I have to say the My Little Pony comic series is the first really ongoing comic series I really bothered to collect. Partially because by the time I started, it was early on, so there wasn't a lot of catching up to do. So I have a sort of two-pronged question I would ask. What series might you recommend out of anything that's off the top of your head? And for anyone who wants to get into the My Little Ponies comic series now, what would be a good starting point?
I always give people Friends Forever, just because it's so, like, one-shot comics are my favorite kind of comics to make, and definitely my favorite kind of comics to read, where you can just pick up one, you go to the bathroom, you read it, you're done, and you got a full, complete story. Full elimination. Sorry. But yeah, when I'm giving people My Little Pony, I definitely give them Friends Forever. I mean, we've done some longer story arcs, and some of my favorite ones are longer ones, but I like to, like, if you, also because everybody that does the long arcs also works in Friends Forever, you can sort of find your favorites in that series. I'm real bummed that it's over.
One of the great advantages of the trade paperback collections is they really kind of encompass a starting and end point. They're usually a complete story or two complete stories. So like, if you pick up volume 5, it's not necessarily a bad thing that you missed 1 through 4. We don't try to do such a heavy continuity like DC that you can't just jump in at any point. I think really you can pick up anywhere. I mean, if you come in the middle of a story, you've only missed it by maybe 1 or at most 2 issues. So it's easy enough to catch up on. As far as a good place to start with number 1.
He's just saying that because he drew it.
Yeah.
Other comics you should read, I always tell people Saga, I like that book a lot, it's from Image
Lock
Comics.
and Key.
Lock and Key from IDW is great, and I just started reading Usagi Yojimbo, and that's real good. And it's also similarly, you can just read 1 issue at a time, but there's like 10 phone book sized collections of it. So plenty of it to read. It'll last you the rest of your life.
And anything written by Mark Waid.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hi, I was wondering if you are drawing for like 12 hours a day, how hard is it to add those little details? You say you're working a lot on expressions because comic books give you that sort of opportunity. Is it more difficult to put in that kind of effort, or are you used to it now, or is it just because you're passionate, you want to do all that?
What I try to do is I do all the hard drawing stuff and the planning, penciling earlier, and that way when it's 4 in the morning, I'm just inking and I can just sort of like go into my happy place and just almost fall asleep until it's finished. So the details almost happen by accident at that point, where you're just sort of like nodding off and deciding that, you know, I should drop wood grain on this wall because I'm a maniac.
I have fallen asleep inking.
Yeah.
I fell asleep inking a Chrysalis page, I think. There's a little of ink down there. I think the planning stages, the penciling stages, that's the hardest part. Everything after that is kind of gravy. I do a lot of my mood when I'm doing the inking, you know, a lot of the shadows or sunlight or whatever's needed. But once I've got things broken down into pencils as to where it's going to be, everything else is secondary. But yeah, when you're on a deadline, sometimes details get eliminated for the meat. You skip the gravy to go to the meat. Sometimes that happens, but you do what you have to do to get a paycheck.
I was also wondering, how important do you think it is to draw 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day? Do you do that 5 days a week or 7 days a week, or did you have to draw even more than that to improve to the point?
Well, my wife keeps the house locked, so I don't have anywhere else to go.
If you can draw less than that, you should. It's just a matter of like, a lot of times we'll back ourselves into a corner where we've taken on too much work.
I mean, with us, you know, if we're not working at a book and we're just watching TV, we're probably scribbling at the same time, just because our hands won't stop.
Yeah.
It's not common for me to not be drawing. You know, I'm like, if I'm watching television, I'm drawing, and I can't watch new TV. If it's something new, somebody says, "Oh, watch this episode of whatever," I can't because I'm concentrating on this. So I live in a world of reruns, which is why I dress like Hawkeye Pierce and Magnum PI.
You love it. All right, last question. I think we can do this.
Yeah.
To do like one sentence answers.
We
Let's
can
go.
do it. Ignore that entirely.
I was wondering what you think of the new animation style for the upcoming movie, and how, if at all, you've changed your own style to reflect the difference in the prequel issues.
You know, the style was so subtle, because when they sent me reference for the movie on the new characters, and like, you know, Twilight would be standing next to Capper or Storm King or whatever, and it took me a while before I realized that there even was a change. And it's mainly noticed in the unicorns have one more ring on their horn, and the big change is the ears.
Yeah.
They're more cupped.
They have furry ears.
Yeah, they're less simplistic. Those were the biggest changes, and at first I was like, is this promotional art? Is this not? I didn't think it was finished. It really has not affected us. Again, it's kind of a variation on a theme. It's not so much an update as the director's choice for the film.
And it's, like we said earlier, they already let us do our own style, so they didn't say like you have to do these movie styles. For the covers, they did make me do like all the movie ponies have way more rendering, like they all have shadows and they look softer. So I had to do that. But as far as like how I drew them, they just let me draw them like how I draw them.
It's an interesting blend of 2D and CGI.
Yeah.
It's I've never really seen anything that quite looks like it. And I think it looks really good.
Yeah, I like the way the cartoon. I'm excited to see the whole thing.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for coming out to Comic Creators.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Remember,